In this video, I'm going to be doing some short album reviews. I was going to review one or two albums this week, but I decided to do something different. I have 8 albums that came out this weekend on April 5th, 2024. So I'm going to be doing it the way I always do, but it's going to be short reviews. I'll give my score at the end of each review. I have a wide variety of genres. I have classic heavy metal, metalcore, sludge metal, death metal, and deathcore. I also have a band that sounds like King Diamond and another band that makes metal music for kids. So I have an interesting batch of albums. Let's get into this. The first album is from a band called Hardraw. They are a heavy metal band from the country of Cyprus. They are fairly new on the scene. This is their second full-length album, and they play traditional heavy metal. The current label is Pitch Black Records. One thing I noticed about this band is that their guitar playing is very melodic. Sometimes they play very fast. It reminds me of classic Iron Maiden at times. They have 2 guitar players, so there were harmonized guitar parts. The vocals were in a higher range. The overall sound was very epic. Sometimes they have these big choruses, and that makes the songs very catchy. There are other songs where they have this galloping sound. It was reminiscent of the aforementioned band, but I wouldn't call them Iron Maiden clones. They have their own style. I'd just say that the guitar playing style was reminiscent of classic Iron Maiden from the 80s, but you could also hear influences from other 80s metal bands. There's even a neoclassical sound at times. Most of the songs were metal songs. There were not any power ballads, but there were a few songs that had some slower intros. I thought this one was very good. I'll give this an 8.5 out of 10. I think if you're a fan of classic metal, you might like this band. Next is the band Erra, and the name of the album is Cure. This is a progressive metalcore band, and they have a pretty big following. I noticed that they have been around since 2009 and toured with many other big-name metalcore bands. I'm not a big metalcore fan, but sometimes I listen to it. I found this band was much more melodic than many of the other metalcore bands I have listened to, but they can go hard when they want to. The sound has what you would expect. It has heavy pummeling guitar riffs. I thought they were pretty good. They seem to be much more complex than a typical metalcore band. There were different vocal styles used. They had the harsh metalcore style vocals, but they also had clean vocals. As far as I know, there's one person doing the harsh vocals and another person doing the cleans. Some of the songs seem to be more commercial sounding than the others, with more of a use of electronics in the sound. But most of the time they can go heavy. There were a few songs like track number 4, Blue Reverie, that I didn't like that much because they sounded too poppy, but otherwise the album was pretty solid. They also had some short instrumentals that added a different level to their sound. In general, it was solid. My score is an 8 out of 10 for now. I'm sure this band has many fans. Next is Iron Monkey with Spleen and Goad. This is a sludge metal band that was active in the late 90s. They took a long break for about 18 years. They got back together in 2017. The band is from Nottingham, England. There are currently 3 members in the band. The album has 9 songs. It is 53 minutes long. The songs are all in the 5 to 7 minute range. The one thing that stood out with this band was the guitar tone. Had a very thick and sludgy, distorted tone. The vocals were very harsh. I would call them death metal style vocals. The songs were not too slow and not too fast. Most of them moved at a mid pace. Another thing that I noticed with this album, that the sound was very noisy. There's a lot of feedback in the guitar sound. If I have anything negative to say about this, is that the guitar riffs were repetitive at times. On the other hand, I like they also have somewhat of a 90s alternative sound. They reminded me of the band Helmet at times with their heavy and crushing guitar riffs. The production sounds very good. There were a few songs where you could hear the distorted bass guitar sound, and the drums sounded very crisp. There was one song called Rat Flag, which seemed to have a faster and more aggressive pace. I liked that song. On the other side of the spectrum, we have the song The Gurges, which was very slow, almost like a doom metal, like the band Ahab or some other band of that nature. Sound was not too bad. For now, I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. It may go up if I spend some more time with it. Next is Witch Vomit with Funeral Sanctum. This is an old school death metal band that's fairly new on the scene. I already saw a few other metal channels talking about this album. This was my first time listening to the band. They're from Portland, Oregon. They've been active since 2012. The band members' names are interesting. They go by the names Filth, Tempter, JG, and CL. And they are on drums, guitar/vocals, bass, and guitar, respectively. Sound is very thick and vile. The guitar tone has this thick death metal sound. The guitar riffs are reminiscent of classic death metal bands like Cannibal Corpse and Morbid Angel. The vocals reminded me a lot of that cartoon band Death Clock, and I thought that was pretty cool. They have two guitarists, so there are lots of riffs and solos throughout the songs. The drumming is very complex. Most of the songs have different tempo changes. Songs have lots of layers in them. It's a short album. It's only 10 songs with a 30-minute runtime. They released this album last Thursday, so I listened to it maybe a few times. I thought it was pretty good. My score is an 8 out of 10. If you like death metal, I'm sure you will like this album. Next is Ingested with The Tide of Death and Fractured Dreams. I was originally going to do a full review of this because I reviewed their previous album from 2022 called Ashes Lie Still, but I decided to just do it this way. I'm not the biggest fan of deathcore, but I think that this is one of the better bands that are out there. The band is from the UK. They have been active since 2006, and they're on Metal Blade Records. This is their 8th full-length album. The band is giving you what you would expect. There are lots of heavy guitar riffs, harsh deathcore-style vocals. The drumming is very intense. It appears that the band has 3 main members, but when they play live, they bring on a bass player and 2 guitar players. This helps give them a very full sound with lots of solos and breakdowns. The album is mostly heavy, but there are parts of the album where they slow it down and get more atmospheric. An example of this is the song Where No Light Shines. This has a slow-building intro. They have a few guests, such as Josh Middleton from Silosis and Architects. He's on the track Expect to Fail. They also have Mark Hunter from the band Chimaria, and the track is called In Nothingness. One of the standouts is the track Numinous. That's an atmospheric instrumental with some classical guitar as well as some pummeling heavy guitar riffs. This one was very good. My score is an 8.5 out of 10. This is one of the best deathcore bands out there, in my opinion. Next is Attic with Return of the Witchfinder. This is a German heavy metal band with a very dark and occult-like sound. They've been active since 2010, and this is their 3rd album. I found this album just by chance. I've never listened to them before. The first track is an intro track. It sounds like an old horror movie, lots of haunting sounds, and goes into the next song, Darkest Rites. But the thing is, as soon as you hear the vocals, you'll notice they sound a lot like King Diamond. He uses that high falsetto singing. The band is very similar to both King Diamond and Merciful Fate. The guitar riffs on this first song reminded me a lot of classic King Diamond from the 80s. They also have dark lyrical themes as well throughout the album. But I don't say, they don't sound exactly like the 2 aforementioned bands. So for example, the guitar playing on songs like Return of the Witchfinder and Offerings to Baal Bereth reminded me of classic Iron Maiden. The album's not too bad, but it's hard to not compare them to King Diamond. The album's mostly classic heavy metal. There were a few moments where they slowed it down and played some atmospheric parts. There was an interlude called Up in the Castle that had that haunting church organ sound. I thought that was cool. Otherwise, not too bad. For me, it's a 7 out of 10, only because it's not too original, but it's a good listen. Plus, we haven't gotten anything new from either King Diamond or Merciful Fate in a while. Next is Pectora with Twilight Kings. This is a heavy metal band from Denmark. They've been active since 2011. This is their second full-length album. This one was not too bad. They start the album with an intro track that sounds like it's something from an 80s science fiction movie. The band plays classic heavy metal. They have 5 members and 2 guitar players. You can hear a lot of that twin guitar attack. The vocals are on the higher range. Their songs can also be melodic. So for the most part, the songs are energetic and have a fast pace. Sometimes they get pretty heavy. So for example, the song Cold Void has some heavier guitar riffs, and the song Children of the Atom is closer to speed metal. There are also songs that have some atmospheric parts, such as the intro to the song Victory in Defeat, and the song A Race in the Dark had some slower and ominous tones. Then they have songs that were kind of sludgy, like the song Cosmic Violence. This was not too bad. I probably need to give it a few more listens, but for now, it is a 7.5 out of 10. If you like classic heavy metal, you should check this out. I have one more album. This one came across my inbox as a promo, but it was interesting. The artist is called Shred Rogers, and the album is called The Circle. This is supposed to be family-friendly metal. Many of the songs are taken from nursery rhymes, and this is mostly an instrumental album. This is also a one-man band. There's an intro track called Soul, which is just a short atmospheric instrumental. Then another instrumental called Good Morning that had some marching band drums. Then he gets heavy with the song Alive, which is a speed metal instrumental. Now it gets weird. He does a black metal version of Ba Ba Black Sheep. The intro to the song was kind of tame, but then it takes off. It sounds like classic black metal bands like Dark Throne or Immortal. But he also added in some keyboards, kind of like softens the sound a little bit. But still, it was some very dark black metal. And supposedly it's for kids. There's another standout song. He has a version of Wheels on the Bus that's sounded like old school death metal. He has a song called Ode to Cats. It's a metal song that's instrumental, but it has cat meows throughout the song. And that cat song had a death metal sound. But overall, it's an interesting concept. I'm not sure if kids will like it, but it's fun. My score's an 8 out of 10. He gets points for originality. I've never heard anything like this. But he comes off as like a novelty act. So that is all. Check out this video. This is from last month, Best Metal Albums of March. I list 20 bands, mostly underground bands, plus well-known bands. Also, like this video, helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you're not already. I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.